In this video, I'm going to show you how to make the ultra delicious 7-Up Mile High Pound Cake. This pound cake is ultra tall. It is ultra delicious. It is super moist on the inside, but yet still dense. This is a super easy cake to make once you know the process. I'm going to teach you the process step by step, give you some of my favorite tips to make this cake ultra moist, including ingredients, including doing something at the end of the bake that's going to help your cake remain moist. By the end of this video, you should have every tip and trick that you need to make the moistest pound cake on the planet. If you're new to my channel, make sure you like and subscribe and comment any questions that you may have. Also, if you want more pound cake recipes, check out my Southern Pound Cake ebooks that'll be linked in the description below. Now, without further ado, let's jump into the video, and I hope you guys enjoy this recipe. So here are the ingredients that you're going to need. First, you're going to need some granulated sugar. You're going to need a lemon and a lime. We're going to get the zest from each lemon and lime, and also the lemon and lime juice. You're also going to need 4 sticks of butter. These are 8 eggs back here. You're going to get some buttermilk as well. This is some white lily all-purpose flour. I do not suggest you use cake flour with this recipe just because we're going to be adding a lot of liquid, and you know, all-purpose flour has a higher protein content, which means it can absorb that liquid that's going to come from the 7-Up soda and the lemon and lime. But if you guys do use cake flour, I would just adjust my 7-Up just a little bit so that you won't have gluten streaks in your pound cake. So we got white lily all-purpose flour. This is about a 9% protein content, which means it's going to be super soft, as well as your eggs, if I didn't already said that. But these are all the ingredients. Oh, and the 7-Up as well. Cannot forget the 7-Up. I don't know if you guys can see that back there, but these are all the ingredients that you're going to need. And so let's go ahead and get started mixing and making this cake. Before we get started, we're going to go ahead and zest our lime and lemon. And I'm zesting it in the sugar. Be careful not to get any of that white stuff on the lime. So I'm just kind of zesting this and just kind of making sure I don't get any of that white puffy stuff right there. This is the stuff you do not want. So I'm just kind of rotating the lemon, not the lemon, but the lime, and doing it as well. Just trying to make sure I get a good amount in there. I would say a tablespoon worth is fine. You don't have to go past a tablespoon, but of course, the more zest that you add in here, the more flavor the cake is going to be. So just keep that in mind. So I'm starting to get a little bit of the white skin, not the white skin, the white skin being revealed. So I'm just going to, kind of loosen up a little bit on this particular lemon. So I'm gonna take this off and kind of get the rest of that on the back of there, put that in there. And as you will see, if you leave this in here long enough, you're going to see the lemon and lime oil start to come out of the zest, and you're going to start to see that your sugar will start to kind of dissolve as far as, the liquid starting to come out of the oils. And so it'll start to dissolve into the sugar, and you'll wonder, you'll be like, why does my sugar look like it's, somebody put some water in it? If you leave it there long enough, that's going to be all of the juices coming out of those zest that you put of the lemon and the lime in here. So just keep that in mind. There's nothing to worry about. You don't need to add more sugar, but usually it doesn't happen unless you leave it overnight. So that's something to keep in mind. But you see me just kind of zesting, trying to get as much lemon zest as I can and not get that white puffy stuff. It is super bitter, and you do not want that in your cake. This could take, a long time or a little time, depending on what type of, how soft your lemon is as far as the zest. This is kind of soft, so it's taking me quite a bit of time to kind of, get the zest up off here. So just keep that in mind as well. So you're going to take some clean hands and you're just going to rub that lemon and lime zest into the sugar, and I'm going to place it to the side. I'm not gonna, if I was doing this overnight, you will see more liquid in here, and you'll have a stronger lemon and lime flavor. But I'm not too worried about that today. But that is like a pro tip. Do this the night before. You will see the sugar kind of dissolve a little bit more. But I'm not worried about that in this particular cake because I'm just gonna put this to the side and we'll go ahead and get the mixing in a second. So now I'm going to extract the juice. I got this thing that I got from Walmart. This is the lemon and lime juice extractor thingy. You just kind of massage it on top and the juices fall, and it also filters out all of that pulp and all of those seeds that we don't want. I'm rubbing the lemon and the lime to kind of loosen up the juice, and I'm going to cut it, and we're going to get to squeezing this juice about this lemon and this lime. Also, let me make sure that I mentioned that If you want the full recipe to this cake, it's in my Southern Pound Cakes 4 ebook. That link will be in my bio, as well as all of my other pound cake ebooks. I have 4 in my Southern Pound Cake series. So if you guys want to pick those up and you want different 7-Up 7-Up pound cake recipes, like 7-Up cream cheese or 7-Up sour cream, I do have those in my book. So right now, if you don't have one of these, that's okay. You can use a juicer or something else. You just want to kind of filter out all those pulps and seeds, and that's what I'm doing right now. This is the first lime. Just, you see all that pulp on the side, you don't want that in your cake, so I'm doing the same thing with the other half of the lime. And you know, this is going to take probably a good couple of minutes to get all of that juice out of these lemon and lime. So you can kind of see me doing this right here, and you know, getting that lemon out as well. So like, if you guys are enjoying this content, make sure you guys like and subscribe, and make sure that you share this with people who want to make pound cakes. I really appreciate all of the support I've got so far, so thank you guys for that as well. So this is a good amount of juice, and you know, this will go into our cake. So let me take this off, and you can see the lemon and lime juice along with the 7-Up and along with the buttermilk is going to make this cake super fluffy and tender. So yeah, I'm excited for this cake. So I got my all-purpose flour, and I'm adding some salt and baking powder to that all-purpose flour, and I'm going to whisk this to get rid of the clumps in here. Now you can sift this, but I just feel like this is just a lot easier for me to just kind of whisk this instead of sift. It's still doing the same thing for me. If you guys, you know, want to know why I do this instead of sifting, it does the same thing. So now that we got all the ingredients ready, let's start working on our pound cake. So the first thing I'm doing is spraying down a 14-cup angel food pan, and I'm spraying it down so that I can throw it in the freezer so the spray can adhere to the cake pan. I have had better luck with my cakes coming out correctly and not sticking to the pan when I use this method, so I'm just telling you guys that's the method that I'm using. And I also preheated my oven to 325, so now let's start working on the actual cake part. I got some lemon and lime sugar in my bowl. Now if you're using a stand mixer, this is exactly how you want to set it up. But if you are using a hand mixer, you want to use a bigger bowl and a wider bowl, because you're going to be mixing for a while longer than what I'm going to be mixing with the stand mixer. But I'm beating the sugar together for around 5 to 7 minutes, and you want to mix it until it becomes white and fluffy like you see here. Make sure you're scraping down your bowl in between time, and make sure that all of your ingredients, like your butter and your eggs, are room temperature. If your ingredients are not room temperature, your cake will not come out correct. So now I'm just adding eggs in one at a time, and you know, you definitely want to do this the right way. And my mixer is on low speed, even though it looked like it's going fast. It's because I sped up the video a little bit, but I'm have this on low speed, which is the lowest speed that my mixer can go. And I'm just adding in the eggs one at a time. Wait until I see the yolk disappear before adding in the next one. You do not want to rush through this method, because if you mess this up, your cake can collapse once you take it out, and that's something that you do not want. By adding in all of these eggs one at a time, it's going to help our height of the cake, and it's going to help our cake kind of stabilize at that height. If you notice, a lot of people who bake pound cakes and they put a lot of eggs in there, sometimes the cake can collapse when it comes out the oven. So that's why it's important for us to mix this one at a time on low speed, because if you do it this way, I promise it's going to come out right. So after I add in all of those eggs, I'm going to scrape down my bowl and just make sure everything is incorporated and I don't see any yellow yolk. This is super important as well, because once we go to the next ingredients, it's going to be hard for us to kind of fix this. So as you can see, the mix is looking homogeneous. It's not separating, which is good. That's how you can tell your cake batter is going to be fine. So now I'm going to mix the buttermilk and the 7-Up together. And also I'm going to add the lemon and lime juice that you saw was, juice at the beginning of the video. And you want to mix this really well. Before adding in your lemon and your vanilla extract, we're just adding a tad bit of vanilla extract. Is going to bring out the lemon flavor. This is not a vanilla cake. So what I'm going to do now is alternate my flour mix with my buttermilk, lemon extract, and lemon and lime juice. You're going to want to start and end with flour. And the reason why we're starting with flour is we want to coat that butter, sugar, and eggs in something that can hold it before we add any liquid. If you add the liquid first, it's going to start to separate, and that's going to be a problem when you bake it. So you see me alternating, and I'm adding in a little bit of the flour at the time, maybe 2 or 3 scoops, and then I'm going in with the 7-Up buttermilk, and lemon and lime juice and extract. I also forgot to mention that my mixer is on low speed, so this is on low speed as I'm adding these in here. This whole process should take around 5 minutes. You don't want to overmix this as well. You can stop this and do this manually with a spatula, but my mixer is pretty good at keeping a low speed, and it's not, it's not going overboard right now. So once I add in the last of the flour mix, I'm going to mix for about 5 more seconds before I turn the mixer off. And then whatever is not mixed into the actual cake batter, I'm going to use my spatula to just kind of go around the edges of the bowl and kind of incorporate that, because you cannot over mix using your spatula, but you can definitely over mix if you use something mechanical like a stand mixer. Also, make sure you get all of the batter off of all your tools that you're using. You don't want none of that to be left over. You want all of that to go into your pan and make you a delicious cake. So now I'm going to take out my pound cake pan, and you can see the baking spray has completely stuck to the pan. It's like a cast iron skillet at this point, which means that once we start baking this in here, it's not going to stick, which is what we want. So now I'm just adding in the pound cake batter evenly as I can. We're going to tap this around in a minute, so it doesn't have to be perfect, but you kind of see me just rotating the pan around, adding in some pound cake batter on each side. Make sure you add all of the pound cake batter in the bowl. We're not trying to save any of this. And once we do that, I'm just shaking it around to make sure it's even, and I'm tapping it to get rid of the air bubbles. So I spent around like 1 or 2 minutes doing this. I kind of sped it up a little bit, but you definitely want to do this because, like I said, we want this cake to be tall, but it's still a pound cake. It got to be dense, but it still has to be light and fluffy. So I baked this cake for 1 hour and 25 minutes on 325, and the toothpick came out clean, and I checked it on both sides. You want to make sure you do that. You're going to let it cool for at least 10 to 15 minutes before you try to remove it. But as you can see, this came out clean, and I'm just going to let this cool right here on the countertop so that we can ice our cake. So here's a pro tip. I wrap my cake in saran wrap and I put it in the refrigerator overnight while it was still warm. This is called sweating the cake out. This is going to ensure that your cake remains moist. But now it's time to make the actual glaze that goes on here. Mine is simple, just powdered sugar and some 7-Up. It's really, really that simple. I didn't add any butter or milk in or any of that. But if you want to, you can. I do have a couple of lemon glazes in my pound cake ebooks that you guys can, kind of use and add the 7-Up to and kind of make your own 7-Up glaze. But I'm just going to whisk it up till it becomes a pourable consistency. And as you can see right here, I'm really, really good with that. So I unwrapped my cake and I just poured the glaze on there. Now, if you have abundant, you're going to have to do a lot more maneuvering with your glaze. But me, I'm just trying to get an even coverage over all the cake and then kind of letting it kind of free wheel drip down, on the sides of the cake as well. When I stopped the video, I actually got the back of the cake because I really didn't get that part while I was filming. But once you glaze your cake, you're going to want to let it set for at least 10 to 20 minutes to kind of let it harden, and then you're ready to cut into your cake. This 7-Up Mile High Pound Cake was super moist, tender, and delicious. You cannot tell that I didn't use cake flour with this. But there you have it. That's how you make the cake. Make sure you like and subscribe for more videos. What's up, guys? In this video, I'm going to teach you how to make this lemon sour cream pound cake completely from scratch. This is homemade, as you guys can see. I am confident if you watch this video until the end, you'll be able to make a lemon sour cream pound cake on your own. Doesn't matter if you're good at baking or not. I'm going to break it down in simple instructions that you should be able to follow. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you guys like and subscribe. And also, if you want more pound cake recipes like the one you're getting ready to see here, my pound cake ebook will be in my bio, and you can go ahead and check that out. Without further ado, let's jump into the video. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that your eggs are room temperature, your butter is room temperature, your sour cream is room temperature. And when I mean room temperature, that means you feel no type of cold on any of those eggs, butter, or sour cream. If you're not sure, let it stay out for a minimum of 3 hours. Also, I got my lemon pudding mix, and I'm going to put that to the side. And now we're going to work on our sugar. This is 3 cups of sugar, and I'm zesting in 1 lemon. I'm going to make sure I get all of the lemon. You don't want any of that white puffy stuff. Just take your time at this point, because the more lemon zest you have in here, the more lemon flavor will be in your final pound cake. So you just make sure you take your time with this part. And as you can see, I'm trying to get everything
all around the lemon. And then I'm taking the lemon and then I'm squeezing the juice, as much juice as I can. This lemon had no seeds in it, but if yours have seeds in it, you might want to kind of pick those out or kind of put one hand under the lemon. And we're going to need half of the juice of one lemon for the pound cake. And then the rest is going to be for our frosting that we're going to put on top of the cake or glaze. Okay, so now we're going to sift our flour. This is 3 cups of White Lily all-purpose flour. Now you can use cake flour, but I prefer using White Lily all-purpose flour because of the crust that you're going to see at the end. But you can use cake flour. It's just depending on what type of texture you want. This cake is going to be plenty of soft. It don't need to be extra soft from cake flour, but of course you can use what you have. Once you have fully sifted your flour, then we're going to place this to the side and then add in half of our pudding mix. We're also going to add in a half teaspoon of salt and a half teaspoon of baking powder. Make sure you mix this well throughout the flour. This is going to make sure that your cake is properly salted well, because salt does make a difference in baking, and that your baking powder is going to be effective in this particular cake. So just make sure it's sifted properly and it's mixed together well. All right, last but not least, before we get to mixing, we're going to add in some lemon juice to our sour cream, and we're going to give that a full little mix. You want to be careful so you don't spill any of the juice of the sour cream juice on the counter like I did, but just mix it really well until it's combined. And doing this is going to make sure that you don't forget to add the lemon juice in the cake at the end when we're doing the flour and stuff. But adding the lemon juice to the sour cream helps it emulsify better, which is going to be better for your cake. All right, now that we got through all of those pre-steps, let's get to mixing. So now I have 3 sticks of butter, and this is room temperature butter. If you want to make sure that your butter is room temperature, put your finger in there, and if it makes the indent, it is room temperature. Like I said, you don't want your butter to be sweating. You don't want your eggs to be sweating, because that means it is still cold, and cold eggs will mess up your cake, and your cake is probably more likely to fall if your eggs are cold. So just make sure they're room temperature. But I'm adding my eggs to a bowl. Now this is about 6 eggs going into this cake. I know some old pound cakes can go up to 10 eggs, and I know new modern pound cakes these days do around 5. But now we're going to beat our lemon sugar and our butter together till it's white and fluffy. This is going to take around 7 minutes in your mixer. Now if you're using a hand mixer, it might move a little bit faster because you're able to move your hands around. I'm using my mixer with the paddle attachment and the side sweeper, so I don't have to stop and scrape down my bowl. But if you don't have that, you will have to stop and scrape down your bowl. So make sure you guys do that to make sure everything is incorporated. And while my butter and sugar is beating together, I'm going to get my homemade lemon extract, and I'm going to add a little bit to my egg so I don't forget to add it during the flour mixer. So I'm going to turn my mixer down to low, and I'm adding in my eggs one at a time. I wait until the egg fully incorporates into the butter and sugar before adding the next egg. You don't want to see any type of yellow yolk, before adding in your next egg. You also don't want to overbeat this, because if you overbeat this, this could make your cake fall. Mixing your eggs on anything higher than low speed on your mixer will add air to your yolks, and it will make your cake kind of rise up, and then it'll fall once your cake cools. This can cause your cake to sink, and if it doesn't sink, it will have gluey streaks. So that's why it's important for you guys to mix this on low speed so that doesn't happen to your cake. Definitely follow these instructions. I've had a lot of emails and a lot of calls from people who have done this, and the number one thing that they've done was mix the eggs on a higher speed than low. So you see me almost done with adding in my eggs one at a time. I'm making sure that I see no yolk before I add in the next one. That's how I can know that it's fully incorporated. And again, I do have the side sweep on my paddle attachment on this mix, so I don't have to scrape down my bowl. But if you are mixing this by hand, or if you're mixing this with a mixer without the side sweeper, definitely get a spatula and kind of side sweep and make sure everything is well combined. And you can see I'm still doing it even though I have the side sweeper. So once I scrape down my bowl, I'm giving it another about 5 to 10 seconds on low speed before I'm ready to move on to my next ingredients. Now here comes the important part. What we're going to do is add in our flour mixture first. So that's the flour, the pudding mix, the salt, the baking powder. You want to make sure that you start and end with your flour mixer. This is non-negotiable. If you do not want any gluten streaks, definitely do this. This is the only way that I know to avoid that. Other than the tips that I gave you earlier in this video, this is one of the most important steps. So you can see me alternating. Now I'm adding in the sour cream and lemon juice mixture that I mixed together at the beginning of the video. And I have my mixer on low speed, and I'm only mixing for about 5 seconds before alternating to the next ingredient. This is super important. You don't want to overwork your batter because your pound cake could be tough. Just think light and fluffy and you'll be fine. So you see me constantly alternating between the flour and the sour cream. And like I said, I'm only mixing for for at least 5 seconds, and sometimes it's a little bit lesser than that. But as you can see now, I'm alternating with the sour cream, and like I said, you want to begin and end with flour. This is going to be super easy for you guys to do at this point. And just like with the eggs, you don't want to go higher than low speed because it will mess up your cake. Now you can see me transferring to a spoon instead of just pouring it in there. It gives me a lot more leverage, and it helps me keep the size of my bowl clean. And we're going to continue to alternate back and forth till we end with flour. This is going to be a pretty lengthy process because you can't go higher than low speed. And for me, I stopped in the middle of this part to kind of finish mixing the flour, the rest of the flour mixture on my own, just to protect myself from gluten streaks. I know gluten streaks are not the end of the world. You probably can still taste the cake and the cake will still taste good. But for me, I wanted to stop a little early. So before I added in my last scoop of flour mixture, I stopped, kind of scraped down my paddle attachment to get all that cake batter off of there. And I'm going to finish this by hand. That's just my personal preference, but I have never gone wrong with doing it this way. And doing it this way ensures that I do not over mix my batter. There's no way you can replace the mechanical force with your hands. So just mixing this in with a spatula is not going to hurt any. It's actually going to help you make sure everything is kind of well combined. And sometimes the butter and the sugar and the eggs can get stuck at the bottom, which is the main reason you want to do this by hand to end this off, because you can kind of tilt your bowl and then make sure everything is mixed in well combined, as you can see me doing right here. Now, don't worry if it looks a little clumpy or it looks a little, not mixed in well together, because when it hits the oven, it's going to be fine. It's going to combine just as fine. So you can see me tilting the bowl and just making sure everything at the bottom is in there. You are going to get a little bit on your fingers, but that's okay. You can just wipe that off. And this is just going to ensure that everything is combined. Now, the way that you can tell if you have a good pound cake batter is by using your spatula. And if you can kind of move it freely through your cake batter, then that means it is whipped to perfection. That means it has a lot of air, but it should also feel heavy and dense. That's what a pound cake is. It's heavy and dense, but it still has a light, fluffy cake texture. So if your pound cake batter is doing that, then you're already on a good track. So now I'm going to get my Nordic Ware Anniversary Bundt Cake Pan. Now you can use a tube pan if you would like, but I've baked literally hundreds of pound cakes in this pan. It has never done me wrong. And I'm using Pam's baking spray. I know a lot of people use Baker's Joy. Baker's Joy has always made my cake stick for some reason, and I have not had that problem with Pam's baking spray. So here's an optional tip to make sure that your cake comes out the pan and it doesn't get stuck. You can throw in your Bundt pan after it's been greased into the freezer for about 30 minutes. And what that's going to do is seal in that coating and freeze it to the pan. So when you pour your pound cake mixture in there, it won't mix in with your cake batter, which can help you prevent it from sticking. So we're going to bake this cake on 325 for an hour and 30 minutes. Do not check your cake. Do not open the oven when this is baked. Trust that you did a good job. If you open up your oven, it's going to create temperature swings, which can make your cake fall. Just trust me. If you follow these instructions like I'm telling you, you will be fine. So once you take your cake out the oven, you want to let it cool for 10 minutes, and it should pop out just like that. You can see it has absolutely no stickage. And now it's time to make our lemon glaze. It's going to go on top of this lemon sour cream pound cake. So the first thing you want to do to prepare your lemon glaze is juice some lemons. You want to have a little tart taste to your glaze. It's going to mix in well with the cake. So I think I used around 2 or 3 lemons, or about 1/3 cups of lemon juice. Then I'm going to go in with about 1/4 cups of heavy whipping cream. Now you can replace the whipping cream with milk if you want to. Now I'm going to sift in some powdered sugar. This is 1 cup of powdered sugar. Now if you want your glaze a little bit thicker, you want to add in more powdered sugar. If you want your glaze to be thinner, you want to add less powdered sugar. So as you can see, after adding in the powdered sugar, it's still a little looser than I would like. So I added some powdered sugar till I came to this consistency where it was pourable, but still a little thick. Get you a whisk and make sure it's well combined. And if you still see little specks, kind of add it to the microwave for about 30 seconds and then come back and then glaze your cake. But you don't want to have any of those lumps in there, which is why we sift the powdered sugar. So once I'm happy with the consistency of the glaze, I'm going to pour it on my cake. There's no right or wrong way to do this. You just want to pour it around your cake. Make sure you have some paper towels handy because it can drip off to the side. But I'm going to start with 1 coat, and then I'm going to come back and reglaze my cake again with the 2nd coat, just to kind of make sure that it's glazed up to perfection. All of this is optional. Add as much or as less glaze as you want on your pound cake. And after that, let it set for about 10 minutes. And now you've completely made your lemon sour cream pound cake. Now you have a pound cake that you can share with your family and friends, and they will love it. It is moist. It is tender. It is tangy. It is lemony. This lemon sour cream pound cake will definitely get you a lot of compliments if you bake this, and it'll be a family favorite from now on. If you enjoyed this video, give me a like and subscribe, and also my pound cake ebooks will be in my description.